Hello, everyone. Welcome to my review of A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. This is actually an adult fantasy book. And just to be clear, because I know some people who aren't really avid readers would probably see this. And when I say adult fantasy doesn't mean like it's spicy or anything. It just means it approaches like adult problems. There is cussing in it sometimes, not always. It's a more mature approach to the content than like YA or middle grade, right? And of course, like this the complexity of the sentence structures are different too. But anyway, so this is like I said, a fantasy book. V.E. Schwab is actually grown to be a quite popular author as of today. This book was published in 2015, so within like at least the past 10 years or so, she's grown. She's written several books. Not all of them are fantasy. You've probably seen one of them at Walmart, which I have on the shelf here, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, I believe. It's also popular, and so she writes some stuff that's either like gothic horror or just fantasy or among other things. You can visit her site. But anyway, this is my first ever like V.E. Schwab book I've ever read, and I just want to go through the journey with you to share my thoughts. So of course there'll be a spoiler section. When we get there, I'll let you know. And so just to give you a little deep dive to see if this is something you're interested in reading, we'll talk about the setting a little bit. So in my opinion, like this book kind of takes place in like a kind of mid 19th century feel, kind of help you paint the picture. It is to take place in a London. There's technically like 4 different Londons, and they're like from different worlds, and they're like, think of it like they're layered on top of each other. And so you have like your the Red London, which has like a lot of magic in it, and then there's Gray London, which is essentially like our world, where we have like there's France and like it's our country, but there's like no magic at all. And then you have White London, which is like where the rulers basically almost like they mastered magic, they control magic. And then there was like the one that people don't really talk about, Black London, which is like when magic took over, and so it was sealed off. And so magic is really, it's not like a hard magic system. I would consider it a soft magic system. Limitations haven't really been established, at least in this book, or very well. It's kind of like, oh, you need blood and or say a magic spell or to do this thing to get this thing to happen, and like it's not super defined, but that's just what it is. But I will tell you though, if you like read the synopsis in the back of the book, in my opinion, I felt like it gave a little too much information on the book because it spoiled like the first third of the book. Like in my opinion, it spoils a lot of the book because one time I was just like, maybe it took me 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks to read it. About the first week when I was reading through the book, I was like, I want to read the back of this book, and I was like, dang, this is spoiling stuff I haven't even got to yet. So yeah, I felt like it really did do that. But anyway, so we're gonna just jump into the characters. So you have 2 main characters in the story. You have Kel. He's a Antari. The Antari are basically a group of people, or there's 2 of them now, that have like a black eye, which symbolizes their affinities in magic. Like they're very powerful with magic. We don't really know how they come to be. We just know that he is. He was born, has that power, and he's from Red London. And the other guy that has the magic is Holland, and he's from White London. I'll talk about him later. And so basically, Kel's job is to be like a messenger between the Londons, because when you're in Antari, you have the ability to travel between the Londons, and so that makes him unique amongst all the people. So he basically has magical powers that he's really good at. He uses his blood for, and he can travel between worlds, which they tell you in the story in the past there's a lot more of them, and that was a more common thing, but nowadays it's not. We'll talk about that in spoilers. The other main character is Delilah, or goes by Lila as her nickname. She's a cutthroat thief from Grey London, and basically she's like almost like the opposite of Kel. Kel's more like he tries to do good, but he also has like a smuggler kind of thing going on. And then Delilah's just trying to survive. Like she grew up in London. She has like boyish kind of basically designed to her. Like she is feminine, but she dresses like a guy and stuff at times to try to hide herself, or uses it to like pickpocket amongst herself, amongst the people of London. And so you get that take of it. And so those are your 2 like main characters, which I thought was a good contrast from the last book I read, which was Court of Thorns and Roses, which you only had the 1 character. But this one, it was actually quite enjoyable because bouncing between the 2 characters, I thought they were written in a way that it kept it entertaining. So we'll go into the villains. So the villains are here. You essentially have three villains, and they set it up in a way it makes it pretty obvious in the way this story is written. So you have Holland. He's the other Antari from White London. He is the villain of the story, and he basically he acts in the way that slows our main characters. He fights them. He's hunting them down at some point in the story. It's not like that at first, but he will become that villain. And the other two villains are twins. They rule White London. They actually control Holland, and they are the basically best way I could say it, and without spoiling it, they are just the villains. You can tell they rule White London, and they do not care who you are, and they give off this like creepy vibe, like I don't want to be in the room with them. So that's essentially your villains. And so now we're actually going to go into like the spoiler section of the story, and so we're going to talk about the plot. And essentially, like essentially the story is Kel gets the Black Stone, which you see in the cover here. Like the cover tells you like a lot about the story, which I think is really well done. And I think if I mentioned this earlier, like this book has like tons of covers. Like there's so many different covers. I actually like the older covers, the red and black, but this one works too. He gets a stone when he leaves one of the Londons, and he gets hunted down. And this stone gives him like a boost in power, but he also knows it's like killing him when he uses it. He tries to run away from these things trying to kill him, and then that's when he clashes into Delilah, and Delilah of course pickpockets him. As at this point we're familiar with her character, and of course she did that, and then they soon become friends, and they get a goal of let's get rid of the stone, it's not good. And Delilah just wants to leave Grey London because she knows it's a terrible place, and so they leave. Shenanigans ensues. They get hunted by Holland, which I really thought that was a cool moment in the story where Holland can like sense the stone, but the stone either wants to be with Kel or Holland because it has its own plot. Like it wants to have a host. And so when we're talking about, and I did not mention this in the spoiler-free section, is there's technically like a third perspective we get into, and it's actually the stone itself controlling people like an infection and spreading throughout the London, so which I thought was pretty cool. And so it wants a host that doesn't die out, because it's like sucking the magic or life out of a host and just kills them. Like their body's just a husk and it's dead and they move on. So it looks to the Antari as like, you're a perfect host. Anyway, there was a cool scene I liked when they burnt down the inn, because how like Kel needs to travel. He needs like some kind of object or something from that world to like lock into it, to like travel to the world. You can't just freely go, I want to go to this world. It's not how it works. And so that place had an object he needed, but it was burnt down because Holland knew he was going to do it. But Holland could sense that he was there, and he like throws dust in the air. But prior to this, Kel knew somebody was coming, so they used the stone to make him like completely invisible, not like Harry Potter where like they're physically there. Like if something will phase through them like a ghost, right? So Holland leaves. I thought that was a cool moment. But yeah, like I kind of saw it coming where it's like, okay, we're gonna have to fight the twins. And in the plot, they jump through the Londons. They meet the Kel's brother Prince, because I actually totally skipped this in the spoiler-free section, how Kel is technically with the royal family, but he's not like a real prince. But a lot of them treat him as a son, but they also treat him as like a tool because he can travel between the worlds. But the prince sees him as a brother, and the prince gets controlled by this magic pendant thing, which was given to him at the start of the story by Holland. And so they have to do that whole plot with like freeing him, and he does that whole soul binding spell thing to resurrect Rice. I think it was the prince's name. And so they soul link, which was a cool thing they talked about earlier, how the soul link is basically like it's like unbreakable. It's not like a normal spell. So if Kel dies, the prince dies now. They feel each other's pain. I thought that was pretty neat. And then they continue on, and they go to the White London, and then they defeat the prince and the queen, whatever, the twins, the king and queen. Holland is also defeated, and they basically come back, and it's like happily ever after. They go their separate ways. So I really want to dive into like the positive stuff of the story. I really liked how the main characters are written to be likable. I really enjoyed any chapter they had because it was written in a way that I grasped towards them. Let's go, they're fun to read. Oh, we got this chapter. Oh, that's a fun chapter. We get to see how they progress. And then they keep going. So, like, that's what I think one of the key things of making a story good is, do you actually like the main characters? Are you curious to see where they're going to go and how they're going to get there and what's going to happen to them? I thought that was really well done. The pacing I thought was pretty quick. I wouldn't say there was any slow pacing because a lot of the chapters are actually not long. Some chapters could be 3 pages, some could be 5 pages. But I think most of the time they're like 9 to 10 pages. And so like the pacing was a little over the place, which I don't think it, or the not pacing, the amount of pages was over the place, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It's just what is important for us to know. So I kind of thought that was fun. But I liked the pacing. I didn't feel like we hit a brick wall or just slowed down to slow down. But yeah, so like I really thought those were my positive points. The negative points, I really thought there was a few like of course that happened moments, and like I'll just share one with you with the whole when they split up to fight the twins, and then Delilah went to face the queen, who at this moment is controlling the prince and the king and queen, or not the prince, but the king and queen from the Red London. So she's just on her throne, and she's like, I got this pistol, I'm gonna shoot her. And I'm like, it's not gonna be that easy. Of course it isn't, because it gets ricocheted and hits her. So there's like certain moments like that, I'm like, you can see from a mile away. And that goes into like the writing of the villains. I thought the writing for the villains was pretty like one-dimensional. You could see like, okay, Holland's gonna be the bad guy. Like the way they wrote it up for him, I thought the twins were like, they were just evil to be evil. Like that was it. Like I didn't really feel an attachment to them. There was nothing really there. I did feel like fear, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be in this room with them. But besides that, they were pretty like one-dimensional. But I did enjoy like the death scene with the brother, with the how he conjured the snake and he couldn't unconjure it, which was like foreshadowed earlier in the book, where when Delilah made a clone of Kel and it tried to kill her because we tried to phase it out. So I thought that was neat. I thought like the ending I was not a fan of, with the stone, how they're like, well, I can just dispel it and it will stop this whole thing, and he just dispelled it, and I was like, I thought it was anticlimactic. I didn't really like that, but it did stop the infection, which I also thought was another weak part, was that even though I said I liked the idea of that third perspective with the infection, but I felt like it was so it wasn't, the attention wasn't towards it, that I didn't feel the weight, like, okay, that just happened, okay, now it's done. Like I didn't feel excited or like, yay. It was kind of like in the middle. I just felt meh about it. Thought it could have been handled a little better. But in the end, I really did think this was a good story. I gave it a 4 out of 5 for my rating. I think it's a good introductory to fantasy if you're not read it before. It's not trying to like lore dive you to say all this stuff happened in the lore, not like that at all. I think it's a very simple magic system of like, he'll just say a word like, do this thing and do it, and use blood or whatever. Like it's very basic. I think the characters are fun. I think the plot, if you like break it down to like a bare bones map, I thought it was pretty entertaining. It didn't get boring for me. I just felt like the small things I mentioned in the negative part could have been more elaborated with to make it a little better. But yeah, like I just really encouraged to read it. I think it's a good start for this year, for 2026. And I actually look forward to reading the next book in the series, because if I failed to mention at the beginning that this is part of a series of books she's written for the Shades of Magic universe. So I don't know when I'll get around to it, because it's not on my TBR and I don't have it. But at some point in the future, I would like to get back and read it. So my next book, I'm actually reading The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I haven't read this book since like 2010, I think. It's been a long time. I actually still have the original book, so I'm eager to check that out. So yeah, I think it's a great start of my year. I hope I see you in the next one. Bye.